It is time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers, and they are dominated by the events at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Joining us tonight, football writer and broadcaster Henry Winter and the Daily Mail's North East football correspondent Craig Hope. Good evening to you both, gentlemen. Great to have you here. Let's quickly run through the back pages as they reach us all the time after that late finish at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The Telegraph, one hand on the trophy, is the headline. Haaland sees off Spurs to leave City on the brink of the title. Back page also covers the shock story that Rory McIlroy has filed for divorce 3 days before the PGA Championship. The eye back page, Are You Watching Arsenal? Is their take on proceedings. Guardian sports page, City in command. Haaland strikes, seize control of title destiny, is the Guardian's back page. Ten Hag denies Rooney's claim that players are faking injuries. And the Times, Haaland's killer blow to Arsenal, is their back page headline. Whilst the Ten Hag, another interesting line from the Manchester United manager, fans want me to stay. I'm sure we'll get to those Manchester United stories later on, but all about Manchester City first and foremost. Henry, the Telegraph headline, one hand on the trophy. Haaland sees off Spurs to leave City on the brink of the title. What were your thoughts tonight? Was City convincing or were they a little bit nervous? Does it matter in the end?
Well, the first half was so flat. And I mean, it was like Spurs fans. We know how conflicted they're being emotionally because they don't want to hand the title to Arsenal, their big rivals. But I mean, the atmosphere there, just judging by on the television, Spurs fans didn't know whether they were, how to sort of celebrate, how to react, whether they were at a wedding or a wake. It was really weird. And then City sort of took control in the second half. And Foden was outstanding. He took a bit of a kicking, but he just almost bulldozed Romero out the way to help create the first. Obviously, his pass then released Doku for the second. So, look, there's so many elements of the second half, and I think probably over the next couple of days there'll be a debate about concussion with goalkeepers. Ederson, should he have come off immediately? And then, as the Telegraph's back page shows, or the front page of their supplement shows, Haaland. It's all about Haaland. The two clinical finishes, one from the spot, the second. And then the first just being in the right place at the right time. So, are you watching Arsenal? But it wasn't City fans who were seeing that. It was the Spurs fans making their point to their neighbours that their wait for a title might have to click on longer than 20 years.
Craig, what are your reflections on that in the North East? Would Sunderland fans rejoice in similar situations if Newcastle were denied? Ange Postecoglou, word reaching us from the post-match press conference saying that those scenes involving Spurs fans, endemic of the chaos at the club and what he's seen in the past 48 hours with Spurs fans hoping to lose. What are your reflections on that? Has he got a point about the attitude, or could this lead Ange to some tension with the supporters?
Well, to answer your first question, Teddy, with regards to Newcastle and Sunderland, absolutely. I honestly think supporters would happily lose a game if it meant denying their rivals as much as they are staunchly passionate about their own team. That level of sort of rivalry really does exist up here, and it exists in North London as well. And I can understand it to a degree because Spurs now probably are resigned to finishing where they are in the league. And I would love to know, to capture the atmosphere and the feeling, in the thoughts, in that stadium when Heung-min Son goes through on goal with 5 minutes to go. What an incredible moment that really was. And, to look at it actually from a Manchester City perspective, for all of Erling Haaland's goals, for all of Kevin De Bruyne's assists, for all of Rodri's midfield dominance, the defining moment of the season comes down to a guy who has watched most of the above from the stands this season. This was only his 11th appearance for Manchester City tonight, and wow, Stefan Ortega's save was quite something. And it just shows you that for all of we think, this title now is a foregone conclusion on Sunday. And, I had to laugh when Gary Neville in commentary tonight said, before Erling Haaland's penalty, this is to win the title. You mustn't think much of West Ham, which I can understand, going off the West Ham of late. But no, it just shows you that moment when Son went through, there might just be a similar moment on Sunday. So this isn't all done yet. They've still got to go and beat West Ham. I'm starting to sound like a certain Kevin Keegan now. But, tonight, the second half was wonderful entertainment, and that save, and, he'd made one earlier as well, for Haaland to get the 2 goals as he did and to dispatch the penalty in the clinical manner. I thought it was terrific entertainment in the second half. And I'm just hoping, as a neutral in all of this, we've got another 90 minutes of it on Sunday.
Yeah, we've got a piece of the Telegraph that Ortega's wonder save, Henry, as crucial as any moment in the title race. Will Arsenal fans be ruining that sliding doors moment, Ederson getting injured? I mean, they might ask whether he would have made that save, because it was a brilliant right foot block, wasn't it?
Well, Ederson's an outstanding number one, and Ortega's an outstanding number two. I mean, as Craig was alluding to, he made two very good saves from Kulusevski as well. One particularly at the near post when Spurs really woke up in the second half. But that moment when Son went through, you just thought this is absolutely perfect for Son. And again, the Spurs fans must have been conflicted. Did they want him to score to equalise? What that would have meant to Arsenal. So, yeah, very, very strange atmosphere. And you could understand, these quotes from Postecoglou in his post-match press conference. I mean, chaos is a strong word to use. I think conflicted emotions. The focus of the fans should be about trying to get into the Champions League, trying to get as high up the table as they can, and not simply have just a sort of focus on what Arsenal are doing. And that's what Postecoglou, who's coming from the outside, which is what he wants to do. He wants to build something special at Tottenham Hotspur, which is out with a North London postcodes. He wants to have rivalry with the more elite, the elite teams as well as Arsenal. So I can understand his frustration. But those are strong words, and I don't think they'll particularly endear him to the fans. No,
Express back page, City jumped the guns. Craig, what's your take on it? Is there an opportunity here for Spurs to become a behemoth in their own right, to win a title for the first time in 60-plus years? Does there need to be an attitude shift?
Tottenham, no, I don't think there is. You look at there was a lot of positive coverage around Ange when he came in. I think that was in many ways because expectations perhaps weren't particularly high, given he'd come from Scotland, and we know the scepticism and the suspicion we've got about managers who do come south, haven't had success up there. But, he started the season, he immediately came across as a very likeable man, a very likeable manager. The effect he had on that club in terms of the charisma, the change of playing style, he was just what they needed at that time, at the start of a season. As the campaign has played out, I think you're starting to have one or two doubts about the longevity of that. And you look at the last 6 games. I think they've had 5 defeats in 6 now. Certainly some of his soundings in the press conference this week, pre-match and then post-match again, I don't think would have went down particularly well with some supporters. And there just beginning to be 1 or 2 little murmurings there of all not being well. So to answer your question, Teddy, we are Tottenham on the brink of challenging at the top of the table. And, I don't see that. No, not at all.
OK, well, Manchester City definitely on the brink of 4 in a row. Will be 6 in 7 years, Henry. The back page of The Sun, they think it's Hull over. Erling fires Pep to brink of 4 in a row. Is it over, Henry? Has it been a dramatic title race, or did you sense an air of inevitability once Arsenal lost to Aston Villa?
Well, I think a lot of us went for City at the start of the season because they've got the best coach, they've got the best starting 11, they've got the best squad. They've also, and this is something the Premier League really need to have addressed earlier, the 115 charges, which I think is a little bit unfair also on, which Manchester City resolutely deny any financial breaches. But I think it's actually unfair on Manchester City fans as well as the club, as well as the rest of the league. These things, that cloud should have been sort of swept away or just addressed, rather than be allowed to sort of drag on to later in this year, and perhaps the judgment will only become clear next year as well. That doesn't help anyone. So look, leaving that to one side, they've got the hungriest manager, Pep Guardiola. You only got to see him on the touchline when Son went through, and just how emotionally sort of drained and engaged that he is. And the players see that. The players respond to that. He's also, they've got great recruitment. I'm sure they pay well, and they've built a formidable team. I mean, Jeremy Doku came on, started ahead of Grealish on the left. So he didn't start, so he came on. And, I just thought he was incredibly effective. Different player to Grealish. Grealish will guard the ball a bit more. Doku gets in the box, got that penalty, and was terrific when they needed it. So look, they recruit well, but it's the hunger throughout this team which is remarkable. You look at Rodri, who hasn't really got many shouts for Player of the Year, but he will walk into any midfield in the world, Real Madrid, anyone's. And Haaland, he doesn't have many touches, but he works hard, keeps making the runs, he keeps scoring. He's the Premier League's best finisher, probably up with Kane amongst the best finishers in the world. And so they've got the talent, but the whole thing is embodied for me by Phil Foden. He will be heading at the age of 23 for his 6th Premier League title, and that hunger was there in that game today to help City over the line. Look, it's not over yet. West Ham will fight, and that's the joy of the Premier League. And Arsenal deserve huge credit for taking it to the last day of the season. But look, City are the team for all reasons.
Certainly are. Craig, your paper, one win from history. Haaland's heroics and super sub keeper put City on the brink of 4 in a row. Henry rightly brings up the 115 allegations of financial breaches against Manchester City, which he correctly points out they strictly 100% deny those allegations. But do you think that given that no one's achieved this since 1888 in English football, it does have to be cleared up quickly? Richard Masters telling MPs today that a date has been set. Does there need to be more clarity around the whole issue?
Absolutely, yeah. It's just gone on for too long now, and it's sad that we arrive at this point again, having been here 12 months ago also, and we're still having the same conversation until it is decided one way or another in the eyes of some. There will always be that little asterisk there. But away from that, in a purely sporting achievement, if you look at the players who are there, and Henry touched on one there, it's Rodri, you know. You look at him and he said he hasn't got many votes in the Player of the Year discussion. Well, he got mine, Henry. He got mine for the FWA player, and I've seen him live a few times this season. And in copy, I've referred to him. He's almost like a grown-up. He's like the parent playing in the back garden with his children at times. He just looks bigger, stronger, more in control than everybody else on the pitch. And I thought, again there tonight, you know, he was tremendous. But no, they are, listen, to go back to the question, Teddy, it does need to be sorted, and it's sad that we're still sat here now, coming towards the end of what has been. We've had a title race this year. We always talk in January, February, March about the title race. And in the end, in recent years, one or two exceptions with Liverpool, it has sort of petered out and we haven't had one. We've had one this year. It's going to go at the last day. It's just a shame that we are still having the conversation you've just mentioned.
Yeah, we'll all be watching Sunday, won't we, as well? Definitely not done typically. But one thing has been resolved tonight, Henry. We should mention, I'll get Craig's thoughts on this before the break as well. Aston Villa qualifying for the Champions League. How big an achievement is that?
Oh, it's huge. What's it, the first time since 81, 82? I mean, it's a remarkable achievement. And huge credit to Unai Emery. When he was Arsenal, he was slightly belittled for his English. The team didn't do so well. And look at him, you know, the resilience of the man. He loves Europe. They faded in the Europa Conference League. But look at them now. They're back in the number one competition. You look at the way that Ollie Watkins, and this is great for Gareth Southgate, that he is playing so much better because he's responding to the man management and also to one or two of the tactical tweaks of Unai Emery. You talk to people at Aston Villa and they say he's the first one into training at Bodymoor Heath. He's the last one to leave, almost sort of turning the lights out when he leaves because he is just focusing. And he said after the game at the weekend, on Monday night, the 3-3 draw, that he wouldn't be watching this game tonight. He would be reviewing yesterday's game and looking forward to next weekend's game. I mean, he's the sort of king of marginal gains when it comes to tactics, so meticulous. And it's a fantastic reward for Aston Villa and their brilliant fans who are going to have fun in Europe. Absolutely,
Craig. A word on how good Villa have been, but also in the second part of your answer, maybe a reflection on what they can take from Newcastle's adventures this past season, which you'll have paid close attention to.
Well, funny there, Teddy, you mentioned Newcastle. When Newcastle's takeover went through, they identified two managers, got down to the final two. They were Unai Emery and Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe took Newcastle into the Champions League last season. Unai Emery's done it there tonight. So you would say the owners they had a good take on the managers out there. Now, I would say Aston Villa needed this finish in the Champions League to keep Emery at the club. You look at the likes of Manchester United could be looking for a manager. You know, Chelsea, we don't know what's going to happen there. Liverpool as well. I can't believe Unai Emery hasn't been spoken about with regards to these jobs, these vacancies. I think he really is top class. I think he's elite. And I'm pleased for him. You know, he had a rough time at Arsenal, but he always comes across well. Henry's just touched on all of his wonderful qualities there. The one lesson they can learn from Newcastle is keep your players fit. Just find a way to avoid injuries absolutely decimating the season, because Newcastle's campaign has been totally disrupted by not being able to cope, and they didn't plan well enough for that disruption of Wednesday, Saturday.
Indeed, Newcastle finishes strongly though, don't they? Play Manchester United on Wednesday. Craig, Henry, thank you very much for now. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the back pages, including this in The Independent, as Everton gives 777 partners a 2-week extension to get their takeover done. Welcome back. You are watching Back Pages tonight, and it's welcome back to football writer and broadcaster Henry Winter and the Daily Mail's North East football correspondent Craig Hope. But now, gents, Henry, come to you. Not made the back pages because of all the football stories tonight, but an important one. Let's talk about Everton in the Mail Online. Farhad Moshiri grants 777 partners a shock 2-week extension period to prove they can purchase Everton after Toffee's majority owner held extensive face-to-face talks with the crisis-stricken US investment firm. Henry, good news, bad news, or not sure?
Well, it's bad news that they're still involved. I mean, the shock is that Moshiri is giving them a 2-week extension to prove they've actually got the money. I mean, everything you hear and read about 777, they shouldn't be near a football club of Everton's stature, huge fan base. They shouldn't be near any football club. And I know they've got sort of one or two connections at the moment. You see the allegations that are being thrown at them on a regular basis. You see airlines going into administration. You see the protests at one of the other clubs that they're involved with. I don't think they are fit and proper owners. And there must be other people out there with the resources, whether American, whoever, with the resources to take over, to buy out a club of Everton's standing. You just look at the fan base, you look at the stadium they're going into. Okay, the squad needs work. Dyche has performed miracles this season. But I just find it extraordinary that 777 are allowed to stay involved.
Yeah, 777 have denied or declined to comment, Craig. What's your take on the situation? The Independent covering this story on their online as well. Everton set 777 partners a new deadline with alternative scenarios in place. Are you surprised they haven't explored the alternative scenarios imminently?
Just a word on 777 first. As a journalist who is a veteran of takeover stories up here in the North East, I've got the scars to prove it as well. You get a sense, you get a whiff of whether these things are genuine. And right from the off with these guys, there was a real ring of untruth about it. And I can't believe it's dragged on for so long now. In tonight's news, it's a shock. It's ludicrous, really. It seems Farhad Moshiri wants his money and he doesn't care who he sells the club to. This takeover isn't going to go through. You know, myself, Henry, anybody could have told you that a long time ago. They need to be looking at alternatives. You know, you read reports out there tonight which sound positive in that there are local businessmen who are already invested in the club who could be a viable option. But Henry touched on it there. You know, we're fortunate to go all around the country, all around the world, covering football. One of the best grounds you'd go to is still Goodison Park for the noise, for the intensity, for the manner in which that home support gets behind their club. It's a proper football club, a proper football ground. I'm actually quite sad that they are moving, as wonderful as the new stadium looks. But you just hope that they do go there on a level footing, not with ownership issues, not with the threat of administration and everything which is currently looming over the football club at the moment. It really is unravelling into a little bit of a mess, and you do hope that they find a saviour, they find a solution, because that football club really does deserve it.
Indeed, we'll all keep our fingers crossed for Everton. Another club in turmoil, relatively less turmoil, I suppose, but Manchester United, Henry, a familiar topic on this programme, I'm sure you've discovered. But we've got a Telegraph story here with Erik Ten Hag's comments saying that everyone at the club is behind him, including the fans, and the players are being supported by the fans as well. But Thomas Frank in the Telegraph, a strong contender to be next Manchester United head coach if Ten Hag is sacked. What are your thoughts on Ten Hag's position and whether Thomas Frank will be a good successor?
Well, I'll be surprised if he survives the summer, given some of the chaos that's been this season. He did well last season, but injuries and one or two sort of tactical issues have just sort of benighted their season. So, yeah, I don't think that he'll survive the summer. But the key thing that Manchester United have to do first, and Craig will understand this from the Newcastle end, is get Dan Ashworth in, because then they can start building properly, start making the sort of the correct decisions, building for the future, because Ashworth is absolutely front and central to the appointment of a new manager. So whether it's a Potter, whether it's Southgate, whether it's Thomas Frank, whoever, it has to be when Ashworth is in the building and organising the search.
Well, indeed, on that note, Henry, coming to you, Craig, because back page of the Mail, Sammy Mockbell reporting that Brailsford is taking a shock role in United transfer deals. So Dave Brailsford, because Omar Barada hasn't arrived, because Ashworth hasn't arrived, will be having a hands-on approach. I mean, How worrying could that be in some senses, Craig, as great as he is at sports science?
Yeah, it is, absolutely, and that's why now, I think Manchester United were naive to a degree, and that would be a concern. I think they thought they could just knock on Newcastle's door and Dan Ashworth would be let go. Now, it doesn't quite work like that, and we've got the situation now whereby it's dragging on. Now, there may be word is that there may be resolution, there may be progress once Newcastle have their own replacement for Dan Ashworth in place, and that could be within the next 7 to 10 days. So we may see movement there, but for Manchester United, absolutely getting that football knowledge in the building. What is the one thing we've accused Manchester United of since Sir Alex Ferguson left? It's having non-football people making football decisions. What is the news tonight on the back page of the Mail? We're going to have more non-football people making key football decisions at Old Trafford. That's why alarm bells should be ringing. On the Thomas Frank story now, listen, Thomas Frank is a very likeable manager. Myself and Henry have spent time with him in press conferences. He's very engaging. He's witty. There's a lot to like about him. He's not a Manchester United manager. You know, his team is currently 2 places above the bottom 3. I think they finished 13th there last season. I don't know what a Manchester United manager is anymore. It's certainly not Erik ten Hag. I would say it would probably be someone, a progressive, youngish coach like an Eddie Howe, but that's not going to happen. And they are in short supply, and they've only tried to take Dan Ashworth. So, yeah, that won't be happening. But no, Manchester United, as you alluded to there, Teddy, every time we're on this show, we talk about them, and it's the same topic, the same theme, the club in crisis. It's been the case for years now.
Yeah, a couple of crisis stories, Henry. We've got about 25 seconds with you in the Mail. On a positive note, I believe Arsenal women will play most of their home games at the Emirates next season. How encouraging is that?
It's very encouraging because it shows the demand is there. Arsenal have led this from the front, really sort of promoting the women's game. I think it's also a reflection on the quality of the pitch at the Emirates, because I know 1 or 2 sort of people, sort of managers at other clubs say, well, we would love to have the women's team playing on our pitch, but is the pitch going to be overused? It's a reflection on how good the pitches are now.
Well, I look forward to watching that next season. Gents, thank you very much. Henry, Craig, look forward to speaking to you soon. If you missed any of the show, another chance to see Back Pages tonight at hour. Show is also available as a podcast. You can download Back Pages on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join us again on Wednesday evening. The guests, John Cross from the Daily Mirror, and The Athletic's David Ornstein.